Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of The Impact of AI. So, thanks very much for joining us. My name is James O'Regan and I'll pass you over to my co-host now.
Yeah, I'm Geryon Kunst, and I have a special guest today, and that's Johan from Amersfoort. Johan, can you introduce yourself?
Johan from Amersfoort. Oh, dude,
Yes, it's completely in English,
you're
man.
Dutch and you mashed my name. That's a first. Yeah, so I'm Johan van Amersfoort. I'm a chief evangelist at ITQ, within ITQ's CTO office, where I basically focus on everything that's cutting edge right now and that can help our customers bring more success. Part of that focus is artificial intelligence. Part is where it originated, so the digital workspace. And I'm currently basically getting my feet wet into the world of Tanzu, Kubernetes, HashiCorp, expanding my vision and my experience. AI is a workload, right? So we're probably going to talk about that, but it's a workload that runs on modern application platforms. And quite often what we see at customers is that they're not treated as a modern application, but just as something that runs underneath someone's desk or is consumed from a SaaS-based service using a credit card. But as IT, you want to, you would like to offer those services to your end users as well, and that's one of my focus areas. And thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you, Johan. So, as always, we're going to start with the news. And as every time we do this, there's just so much going on in AI news. So let's have a look at a few things. One thing that jumps out, and I'd love to get your input on this, Johan, is obviously Nvidia has now been declared as a $2 trillion company and has surpassed. It's just completely blown up, and it just keeps going up and up and up to the right, and it's just amazing to see. But as we've talked about on previous episodes, due to the dependency or the need for GPUs for AI, it kind of explains it. But at the same time, Nvidia are not just a GPU company. There's so much more than that. Anyone got?
So what's your question here?
What's the question?
What are my thoughts on this?
Yeah.
So funny stories. I read an article from a former CMO of Nvidia. He left the company and sold his stocks, I think 2006-ish.
Oh, no.
Yep.
I'd say he's having a lot of regret at the moment.
Yeah.
He might not sleep that well.
And he used to own around 20%. So he's one of the first people that were brought in by Jensen to build the actual company and to make it bigger. Obviously, it started all with gaming. They acquired a couple of companies, Diamond, Monster 3D, and they expanded their platform. But I think the journey accelerated when CUDA was invented, and the guy that invented CUDA is still part of Nvidia. So it's he doesn't have to work ever again. He still does, but he doesn't have to. But yeah, coming back to what you just mentioned, like a $2 trillion company, they're not just building AI-related solutions, hardware and software. They're defining the industry, and they're driving the industry. Like literally, most of the cars that are autonomously driving use some form of NVIDIA technology to do so. Obviously, Tesla doesn't. They develop their own stuff, but
they did in the beginning.
Sorry?
I think the first ones were Tesla, Nvidia Tegra something.
Yeah, but they're defining the industry in the broadest sense of the word, and and AI skyrocketed last year because of probably OpenAI as a leading company to commoditize large language models and basically offer it to a broad public, and that has built the Nvidia empire even more. So it's insane to think that the company of Nvidia is worth more than the country of Canada.
That's insane. I don't know. That
It was
makes me
literally in
feel
the news recently. Like they.
I know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable that a company has that kind of worth in the grander scheme of things. It's just like, oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, but that's where we are. I know
Yeah.
but that's a crazy stat. It has more GDP than Canada. That's insane. And like
Crap load of
2
money.
years ago, nowhere near. It's
No.
like, so yeah, that is mind blowing facts around Nvidia, and the growth is just off the charts. But yeah, that's just the where we are with AI. It is just so much. There's so much acceleration and development and new things coming out. And speaking of new things and OpenAI, they recently released their new what was it? Oh God, my brain's not
Yeah,
working.
perhaps James, just to add
Yep,
to the
go for it.
discussion that Microsoft is trying to build their own AI hardware to release the dependency on Nvidia a bit. And
Yeah.
Johan, as you said before we were recording, that there are other chipsets that are also coming up to par with what Nvidia can do. So they're defining the market, but I think some of them are catching up.
Well, they're not coming up to par. So let's make it completely clear. Nvidia is there, and other companies are entering the AI market when it comes to offloading specific things to a chip. And AI has, and I don't know all of them by heart, but has 12 different types of use cases or workloads, if you will. The most commonly known with the broader public are training data, are tuning or adjusting a model, and are using that model in an application which we call inference. Now, if you look at these three types of workloads, they require completely different hardware posture. So training data, and depending on the type of data and the type of model you would like to train, can take a couple of days, couple of hours, a couple of months. Or if you take the Llama model that is developed by Facebook, I think if you took the hardware architecture of a couple of years ago, let's say 3 years ago, I think someone calculated that multiple Nvidia DGXs could easily train that model for a couple of years straight and finally have a result. Now, if you look at a different type of workload, so an inference workload, which is basically the simplest, that can easily run on CPUs, but certain aspects of that workload will require a framework to run as well. So if you look at TensorFlow or PyTorch or well, there are many more. LangChain is also such a framework. They can run on a CPU, but they're probably going to run better on a specific instruction set. And Intel has released with their Sapphire Rapids architecture something they call Intel AMX, and AMX is capable of running those matrix computations on the chipset. So from an inference perspective, that means that it's a simple type of offloading that can easily run on such a CPU. It doesn't require a dedicated GPU to do so. And there's hardly any performance difference for the majority of those workloads. But yeah, it depends on what you're doing. If you're inferencing real-time video streams, it's something different than if you're using or if you're running a chatbot. It's a different type of workload. It's a different type of inferencing. and you're doing that on different types of data. So depending on what you're doing here, there are multiple hardware options or even just software options. I developed our next-gen virtualization consultant. We call it Cobie. So it's a collaborative operational bot for information exchange. It's basically the next-gen ITQ consultant. And it can run, Lily can run on Hugging Face on a 2 virtual CPU-based instance.
Nice.
Obviously, the result you get back from asking questions takes a little bit more time than if you would run it on a GPU, but still, it works.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in more detail now in a couple
Sure.
of minutes. But just to get back to some of the other news kind of big things, we've obviously had the introduction of OpenAI Sora, which obviously is not available, but the video outputs that just from some prompts have blown me away.
Phenomenal.
Have you guys
Yeah.
seen them?
Yeah, it's incredible I saw one of a woman walking down a street in New York or something at night and it just worked, it just fitted, and it was just looking like a movie. We're finally getting there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
insane.
like we're far off having our first kind of AI created movie.
Yeah,
Well,
so
it's already there, right? So the first kind of AI created movie was Toy Story. Oh, something happens in my... Oh, yeah. Talking about AI.
For those
but-
listening,
Yeah.
Johan has a series of visual effects with some balloons and some fireworks.
Yeah, apparently if you do hand gestures in your camera feed, and this is just a native macOS feature in the, I think every like Apple Silicon based MacBook or Mac has that feature. So if you do a a thumbs up, it'll show
Okay.
a thumbs up as well.
Thumbs up in a bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, but coming back to what was the question again?
The first AI movie. You
Oh yeah,
said
yeah. So Toy Story, great story. So Toy Story was fully generated using, well, not using AI, but using GPUs. And what I heard is that every single frame took a lot of time to generate. So rendering the entire movie took weeks and weeks and weeks of GPU power. Whereas what Gerjan just mentioned, like with not just a blink of an eye, but like in a finger, how do you call this?
finger.
Click.
Yeah, a snap of a finger, you can generate a frame or multiple frames, or in this case, I think the
60 seconds,
videos
isn't
are
it?
limited to a certain resolution,
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, it looks very awesome if you see where we are coming from. Like Toy Story is 25 years old,
Yeah.
and following Moore's law, I'm seriously interested to see what this will do to our industry in 2 years from now. We have no idea.
Yeah. No.
So I can
it's-
understand why the actors in America were striking because of the AI Act, and they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
really
yeah,
afraid of losing their job. And looking at Sora, I'm starting
Well,
to imagine
it
why.
wasn't just that. It was one of the big things with that thing with the actors. They were like, if say they died and then their image was being used by studios, were like still continuing to use their image and saying they own the rights. So that was one of the things as well. And so how would you know if it's AI or if it's the real person, because it's getting harder and harder to tell. So yeah,
Exactly.
that was a big concern for them about the use of their image. So yeah. So it seems that Elon is suing OpenAI for who knows what Elon's doing, to be honest. He walked away years ago. As most people know, Elon was one of the founders of OpenAI, but then he walked away to concentrate on Tesla and do his own AI through Tesla. And now he seems that he's annoyed at OpenAI and he's suing them. Have you guys been following this story? Gerjan?
Only from the sideline. I heard that he was suing them, and I was thinking, okay, guy, but don't you have a job? Just my Tesla is still not driving itself, so maybe you should focus on that. But no, I haven't really followed that. Perhaps Johan, have you seen that news?
Yeah, I've seen the news, but Elon is Elon. He's a guy with principles, and I think this is just one of those examples of him following his principles. And if nothing happens, he will figure something else out to rebuild such a company again and make a shit ton of money. It's the same with the company he started to. I forgot the name, but he had a brain implant to help people with a disability.
Oh yeah, Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink. So he
Yeah.
founded a different company before, that did a similar thing. He wasn't allowed to continue that company, and now he started Neuralink to with a different approach there, and he's
And I
doing
think-
amazing stuff there.
And I think they actually implanted in their first human.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Creepy but interesting.
Yeah, someone with a spine injury was capable of walking again just by putting his mind to it. And obviously there was a whole exoskeleton tied to his body, but the fact that he could pull this off, like you can say about Elon Musk what you want, but like have any of you guys seen the documentary on SpaceX? I think it's a Netflix documentary, but it's like SpaceX was this far from being bankrupt and stopping his the initiatives that were working on, and he put all of his eggs in one basket for one of the final rockets he built, and that launch succeeded and got him like the funding and the development he needed and the contracts he needed to pursue his dream. You can say about him what you want, but he's one brilliant man. He has his his things like buying Twitter, and I don't know if you guys are still tweeting, but I'm seeing more and more people within our IT bubble, IT community leaving Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, but
No, I think the majority of kind of interactions I have now would be on LinkedIn over Twitter, because it's just bots and ads and nonsense that I don't have time for. So there's very little time and it's a pity. It was a great platform, but yeah, and I suppose he's a very divisive character, I think, is the polite way of talking about Elon. So, just to finish up the news, I read a story which I found quite interesting, which was about the government in Singapore, and they've got an investment fund of just under $740 million that they're using to kind of educate and prepare the next generation of AI workers, because they see obviously the impact AI is going to have, but they want to take proactive action. Did you guys see this? I thought it was a really kind of progressive move. I haven't seen other governments react in the same way and be so preemptive in preparing their workforce.
Yeah, it's a nationwide initiative to get everyone that is getting ready to work or already working up to speed with the correct way of prompt engineering and helping them use AI the most effective way. So it's a really nice way to get your country ahead of the curve for all the other countries, because if everybody can do that. I had a presentation last week where I said, well, we made one mistake when Google came up. We didn't teach everyone to use Google the correct way, and that's why us IT guys are so busy with all these help desk tickets, because people can't Google the correct answer. If you train everyone to use the AI the correct way, your life's going to be a lot easier, because the AI can solve all your questions, and we can do other stuff.
That's it.
Well, that's probably going to be one of the next phases. So prompt engineering currently is, it's not hard to create a good prompt, but it's very hard to create the perfect prompt. So I'm guessing that that prompt engineering by itself will be something that many companies will focus on in the upcoming years, just to get the best out of the AI platform that you're consuming, and make it accessible for literally everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason we have Johan on is obviously he mentioned it very briefly. Cobie. So, Johan,
Spill the beans.
what is Cobie? And why
Yeah.
why is it different to kind of public AI as opposed to what's the main difference?
Right. So Cobie basically is a project. It's not a solution. It's a project, and within that project, so one step back, I learned by just tinkering, doing. I never had a university education or a college education on IT. I quit school when I was 17. Had my first full-time job in IT, and from that moment on, like everything I wanted to learn, I just learned by doing. And I've jumped in the world of AI in 2017 with a first customer that wanted to run a PyTorch-based workload on vSphere. Well, and ITQ is commonly known as so my employer is commonly known as one of the biggest VMware knowledge partners in Northern Europe, and all of the experience we built from that moment on in the world of AI has contributed to some of the solutions that we built. Now, those are all based on things like image recognition in real time, based on object recognition. So the computer vision aspect of artificial intelligence. That's a completely different world compared to what we're seeing in the wide AI space. So I was literally at a customer yesterday to talk about AI. They wanted to build their own new chatbot for a specific reason, and the people in the meeting were not focused on IT. They didn't have it. So it was a CEO, it was a CMO, and there was a head of operations. Not an IT company. So primary question I had, like, if you think about AI, what rings a bell? Like, what does AI mean to you? And everyone mentioned ChatGPT. So the mainstream the mainstream worker nowadays associates AI directly to a chatbot. And I wanted to know more about first of all, how do you build a chatbot? What challenges does it bring to you as a person, to your organization? But also questions like who owns the data that the chatbot uses? How do you train a model? What happens if you train it based on information that's old, but you want to feed new information into it? What types of components would you ideally then use? Like, are you continuing the model? Do you need a vector database to update some of the aspects of the data set? All stuff I want to know more about.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, and we briefly talked about it in the introduction, I went on a 6-week holiday. So I had a 6-week holiday planned, sabbatical with my family. And I wanted to figure out, like, what I wanted to tinker a couple of months before we leave, and what would be the ideal use case to tinker, to play around, to know more about AI, and also use it. So I love to present about stuff. I love to build demos. So this was the perfect use case: how to replace myself during my holiday by a chatbot. So it's the project is called Cobie. The solution that we built The first two versions are actually called Cobie. So Cobie's welcome you as a chatbot. And the whole idea was, am I able to train a existing large language model like a Llama model or Mistral model
Yeah.
with ITQ data, VMware documentation, and my own books. And so I did. So I started to basically find out what different types of large language models there are, what their behavior is, what their requirements are, which ones work perfectly fine on a GPU, or which ones might work better or work even on a CPU-based workload. But also find out like what kind of services can you consume that could provide you with these services. And well, quickly running through like the whole, or quickly I ran through a whole design process. And find out that like the way to ideally do this depends on the customer use case. If you're just working with public data, which a lot of customers do, then you guys hear a siren?
Yeah, something's happening.
Yeah. Let me rephrase the question in a bit. I'm back. Sorry about that.
No problem.
No, what a lot of customers... if someone is consuming just public data, publicly available data that's owned by the public or by a certain company somewhere, but is publicly available for you to use in a model, then it makes perfectly sense to consume such a application, basically a chatbot application, or make it already like cloud-based. In most cases, in Northern Europe, especially in the healthcare market or in the governmental space, the data is not publicly available, needs to run on-prem or stay on-prem even. And we have been an Nvidia partner for a while now. So with all the frameworks that Nvidia has built to actually create a private AI platform, I started playing around. So what does Cobie do? Cobie is based on currently on a Mistral-based model, and intentionally chose Mistral because it's quite easy to set up. And Mistral supports both CPUs as well as GPUs. And I fed data based on a large series of PDFs into the model. I set up a chatbot using Nemo. Nemo is a publicly available framework from Nvidia. And using Nemo, you basically can ask questions to the model that's behind it. And what I found really cool is that these, especially my books, so there are two types of information fed into the model. Public available VMware documentation, which is factual. There's no bias in that documentation whatsoever. And my two books, VDI Design Guide Part 1 and 2, in which I have a strong opinion on certain aspects of building a VDI, especially things like roaming profiles. I strongly believe that roaming profiles have been designed and built by the devil. So what happens if you put factual data and biased data into a model, and then you ask questions to a chatbot related to roaming profiles? So that was part of one of those experiments. And if you don't adjust the bias of the application, in this case the Nemo framework, you will get a biased answer back. So that was one of the first experiments. Like, put data in it and see what happens. Like, what weight is put on the data if you ask a question about, in this case, roaming profiles. Is the data from my books getting a higher weight on the data than it is from the online documentation? And it was. Now, what's really cool about the Nemo framework is that you have additional or kind of add-ons to put guardrails on that information to adjust the bias. And
responsible. Is that the responsible AI stuff?
yeah, so that's part of the kind of. So what you want to avoid is that if we would put this on the ITQ website, and I would not adjust the bias or adjust any guardrails for that matter. You could also ask questions about politics or about things it should not be answering questions about. And so that's also part of that framework. So the NEMO guardrails framework allows you to adjust it in such a way that you can completely contain it.
So you can contain it to only talk about certain subjects rather than a wide range of subjects.
Correct. Because what you want to avoid...
Because obviously if you were building a chatbot for a company, you don't want it to give a political opinion that potentially could end up in a lawsuit.
Yes. Also, it's part... So the security paradigm is completely... Well, it's taken to a whole new level with the introduction of AI. It's not just about behavior analytics anymore. It's not about firewalling anymore. It's also about the ethical side of security and about behavior of something that you might not be able to contain. So this is where guardrails come into play. It's more about the ethical side of AI, and what you want to avoid is something that happened to Microsoft in 2017. Do you guys still remember Microsoft Tay? TAY?
No.
Oh, no. This is the best story ever. I use this in my presentations. So for everyone listening, Google for Microsoft Tay and look for screenshots. So they built a bot for Twitter. So it was a bot that acted as a person on Twitter, and Microsoft wanted to have that bot kind of learn from conversations happening on Twitter.
Oh God!
And what happened in literally 24 hours, Tay went from, "Hi, I'm Tay. I'm happy to learn about everyone. I like everyone, and let's have a conversation," to 12 hours later, "I hate feminists," to, and it gets better. Within 24 hours, it was a raging Nazi. It literally said that Hitler was great and right, and he hated all Jews. So Microsoft pulled the plug, obviously, out of it, but too late. So it's not the exact same as a chatbot you would just put in listening mode and answer questions based on what an application would ask. But it is an example of, if you're not putting guardrails around an AI engine, it could go wrong. It will probably won't end up like Skynet, but it will eventually go wrong.
Because I think there was a US airline and they had a chatbot, and someone asked a question about prices, and the chatbot was completely wrong in the prices, but they ended up getting sued and they had to honor the prices that the chatbot was talking about. And then another one, I think, was for a car dealership. It was using a ChatGPT back end. So people started asking it questions that were, because the guardrails were not in place. Someone had basically just done an API into ChatGPT and then not realized the implications of just having no guardrails, that it would just act like a general ChatGPT window.
Yeah.
So yeah, guardrails, it seems, for private AI and is definitely an essential item if for business use cases.
Well, no, kind of. I think it's essential for private AI. Because you have your data on-prem, you have your model on-prem, and the reason why it's on-prem is probably something around compliancy or about regulations you need to comply to. Now, if you would use a SaaS service with public data, you still want to probably put guardrails around it, because still, like, having a public chatbot about a certain topic you still want to avoid to have it answer questions about a completely different topic that's not tied to your market. And that's not just a focus, it's not that it's just tied to a question being out of focus of what the chatbot should be doing, but SaaS-based services on average are based on consumption model. So if you would let it answer questions about something that it shouldn't be answering, it'll probably cost you a little bit of cloud consumption there as well. So the first version of Cobie I built, to make it simple, was based on LangChain, and I used the OpenAI API to redirect questions to ChatGPT. So I used the GPT 3.5 model as a base model, but put augmented my own information on top of it. You call that a RAG. It's fairly simple to set up. Literally starting from scratch, you can build an application with a chatbot in a day, a couple hours even. And the whole idea was to see what the difference was between if I augment my own information, put guardrails around it, but still use a GPT model to for language recognition. And it works fairly simple, but every single query you send to the application requires an API call, and the API call costs you money. So the more popular a chatbot will be, the more expensive it would be as well. And this is where the whole business model from OpenAI comes into play. So they earn money by every single query they get. But yeah, the first version of Cobie runs on is on Hugging Face. If you look for my name on Hugging Face, you can basically pull a Docker container where Cobie runs in your own instance or your own environment. You can run it on a Synology if you want, and the only thing you need is an OpenAI API key. But yeah, you can pull it there, you can run it there, works perfectly fine. The only downside is, and that's with every single AI container you pull, they're insanely big. So if you're working in the Kubernetes space as a DevOps engineer, and you are aware of how like a modern three-tier application or a modern application would what kind of requirements it has, most of those containers are non-persistent. They're small. They just contain the bare minimum to run a certain aspect of an application. That's completely different with AI-based apps. So most of these apps will pull a model from like a latest version of a model from a certain source. They will update the frameworks as soon as they start, and they can easily grow to 15 gigs, 20 gigs. All of the Docker images you can find on Nvidia's GPU cloud, so the NGC, are probably 6 gigs as a bare minimum. And then you don't have a model, you just have frameworks. So yeah, it gives a little bit of an idea what it takes to run such an application.
Wow. So and then you need to feed it more data. So
you have
a framework with a lot, and you need to feed it your own data, so it will even grow bigger.
Correct. But
so are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So is Cobie still at version 1, or are you at version 2 now? Or
no. So Cobie version 1 is the publicly available version. Cobie version 2 is a private AI version. It runs on an Nvidia or a pair of Nvidia A100s. The main reason for those GPUs, it's the 96 gig version GPU, is that running a Mistral or a Llama model locally requires a shit ton of frame buffer. That will not fit into a consumer grade GPU. Like a GeForce with 16 gigs of frame buffer won't be able to run such a model. So you need a smaller model or a chunk of such a model. They're tiny. There are tiny versions or smaller versions of the Llama model, for instance, available. But they require GPU frame buffer. So you need enough frame buffer to run such a model. So Cobie version 2.
I tried to even run the chat RTX on my laptop, and I don't have a more powerful enough. And I do have an Nvidia GPU on my laptop, but it's not powerful enough for that.
No, it
So,
requires 16 gigs of frame buffer as a
yeah,
bare
exactly.
minimum.
I think I've got 8. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's by the way, it's very cool because that application is based on Nemo.
Ah, okay, right. Which is the framework you use for Cobie.
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Cobie version 2 is currently being tweaked. It also supports speech to text, which is really awesome. So you can actually talk to it and you get an answer back. It doesn't do text to speech back, but that's something
Right.
we're working on. And what's really cool, if you look at one of the projects that Nvidia showed at GTC, I think 2 years ago, was a project called Tokyo. So not Tokyo, but Tokyo, Tokkyo. And it involves a mini Jensen. So they modeled basically an avatar of Jensen using Omniverse, and they integrated that model of Jensen into Nemo. So you can basically talk to a mini Jensen, and that's our North Star. So I'm working on getting that done. We hope to show it to the public somewhere this year, but that's still on the roadmap.
Have you got your colleagues internally to play around with it, or?
Oh yeah,
ask
definitely.
questions? Yeah, and
Yeah.
how do they find it?
Fun, and I showed on the last couple of presentations I gave on different events. I actually showed Cobie version 1 in real time, so audience could ask questions, and with some questions they were able to break it. So what you see is that version 1 doesn't have a strong large language model behind it that doesn't really know all of the rationale. And so, like, if you use ChatGPT, ask a question and ask follow-up questions, it will tailor that based on the first question you ask. So the prompt will be enhanced, if you will, with a cheaper, a less complex model used in Cobie version 1. We're seeing that is a bit different. So you can ask questions. So I ask a question, who is Sean Bass? It'll return to me that he's the CTO of VMware on EUC. He hasn't been there. So he literally quit 1 year ago.
Yeah.
But still, this is based on the information I fed into Cobie based on my books. Now, if I would ask a follow-up question like, do you like roaming profiles? It still ties that question to Sean Bass. And so there's some challenges, some stuff we need to tweak there. But with version 2, that was already partly solved. So we're hoping to show version 2 in a couple of weeks from now on the Dutch VMUG UserCon in Den Bosch. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Belgium, the 6th of June, will show version 3, which might involve the avatar already. But yeah, we're seeing that. Like, also, guardrails are not something you just set up once. You need to continuously tweak what's happening with the guardrails. If a question cannot be answered, or if someone answers or asks a question that it should not answer, you need to tweak that as well. It's just a continuous feedback loop that you need to work on to make the guardrails, I would say, perfect. And and for us, it's just a learning by doing project, which we would like to slowly, well, if the time is ready, implement at customers as well.
Yeah, no. Obviously, more and more customers are looking at way they can implement AI into their environments and their sites and stuff like that. And if you can perfect this, and it gives them all of the required information, then and the guardrails work as required. But yeah, no, it's a really exciting project you're working on.
It
It
is.
sounds like a theme park of fun. It's all everything you tinker, everything you do, then something else happens, and you're in a whole new area to play with.
Well, it's a massive rabbit hole. So,
Yeah.
like a journey into AI in general, like the first in 2017, the Nvidia GPU cloud was not completely released yet, and the things that we wanted to do at the customer were definitely not part of what Nvidia was offering back then. So we were literally building an AI stack on vSphere with all like custom frameworks, custom versions of CUDA, of CUDNN, of literally everything you could find. And then like you build it, you run the application on the customer on top of it, and that doesn't work. But you have no idea why not. And this is where like the GPU cloud as well as Hugging Face, they provide you an environment where all individual frameworks, drivers, DLLs, like everything you need to make the application work are already tested by NVIDIA or are tested by Hugging Face or by a developer on Hugging Face. And it makes it fairly easy to start up. But back then it was not there. So it was complete voodoo, literally voodoo. You could do the same thing 3 times in the identical way and would end up with complete different results. And it's just like sometimes the sequence works a little, or if you adjust the sequence a little bit, like adjust the paths in an incorrect way or whatever, it was just one big shitstorm. We took 4 weeks. It took 4 weeks before we got the application to run. And nowadays, if you just pull an NGC container, your code is on a code repository like Git. It's so simple to pull the to orchestrate basically everything. You pull the container, you insert your application using a Git clone or whatsoever, and you're up and running in a couple of minutes. Versus building it yourself and ending up in anger management scenario in 2017. Literally
Out
happened.
the window. Yeah, I can imagine. And so, just we're starting up to get to a little bit to a wrap up. If people want to start with this, Johan, if you say,
Yes.
okay, you made me enthusiastic, I want to have Cody, or I just want to start with my own large language model, or have a bot on my own laptop. What's the easiest way to get started?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Most of the applications you'll find are based on Python. And obviously there are different other languages you could use to build something. But starting with Python and learning Python on sites like Pluralsight are I would say the first step. Mm-hmm. Then after that, it is fairly simple to just go to Hugging Face, create an account, and browse for all sorts of really cool AI projects that have been built and that you can pull into your own environment. There are examples of stable diffusion, so an image generator, or really cool audio applications that you just pull and generate like a song or something else that you can start with. Another great resource, I think, is the NVIDIA Data Science University. It's called DLI, Developer. No. Well, it's if you look for NVIDIA DLI, the Deep Learning Institute, you can do a couple of Kickstart courses that take a day and guide you through the main aspects of AI from their perspective. So you'll learn a little bit about PyTorch, about TensorFlow, about Python in general, but also a Jupyter Notebook, which is basically an online kind of IDE that you could use to code something and see in real time what the result is. So those are definitely great points to start with. Plus, again, if you go to Hugging Face, check my name, or look for Cobie, Cobie, you'll find the project and you can basically kickstart it yourself.
Okay, and I'll put the links in the show notes just to be sure that everyone can find them. But that's a really cool way to start. So I hope, thanks Johan for your story. I hope we got you all the listeners enthusiastic on running large language models from your own environment in your own, and it doesn't have to be cloud. You can run it in a weekend, but you might want to cancel the family meetings.
Oh, definitely. It's a rabbit hole, and it's something. If you're just as excited about next gen or cutting edge technology, it's definitely something that gets you in a hyper focus and yeah.
It's what you said. It's an incredible rabbit hole to dive into, and
Yeah.
it's something that if you're not careful, you're gonna never come out again.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me as a guest. I love to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you so much, Johan. That has been really interesting. As I said, I think you've given a really good overview of your private AI model and the limitations and the advantages of it. And I think people have lots to kind of go and now delve into. So thanks very much for being on. And this is a wrap on episode 2. So thanks very much, everyone. Take care.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.